Hi students, welcome back to the conclusion of our Big 6 lesson. I'm Mr. Mendoza, your school librarian, and I've been so excited throughout this process to see you guys learning about the Big 6 research strategy. I'm so excited to see how it's going to help you tackle research in the future. After today's lesson, or the purpose for today's lesson, is to review some Big 6 resources, including a video and a handout. During this, it'll help review us on the Big 6 research model, including the steps and the sub-steps. And again, it'll prepare students to begin their research, and it just supports students with a future framework. So next we have some Big 6 lesson resources. I wanted to start off with a video. This video does a great job of explaining the steps in the Big 6 research format. It also details the sub-steps as well as gives some great tips alongside. So let's take a look at that for a moment. I'm going to click the link and it opens this.
The Big 6 research process is a way for students to be equipped with the necessary skills to complete a research project. The first step is task definition, which is identifying what your project is about and what information do you need. One strategy is to make a list of questions that you want to find out during your research. These questions will help you as you're researching and make sure that you're focused and finding relevant information for your project. After you've made a list of questions, now you need to find sources that will help answer your questions. The second step is information seeking. Here are a list of possible sources that might help you with your research. You could use books, the internet, encyclopedias, an atlas, which is usually for geographic information, an almanac, magazines, brochures, audio or visual materials, databases, or interviews. Any of these could be possible sources to help you find information. It's important to evaluate any websites that you're going to use, because anyone can publish on the internet. Here are 4 steps that will help you quickly evaluate a website. Figure out who the author is or who's sponsoring the site. Make sure that there's reliability, meaning that the information is accurate. Look at the date that it's published and make sure it's current. And also look at the content of the page and make sure that it's related to the questions that you're trying to answer. After you've found your sources, you need to do the next step, which is location and access. You need to search through the sources and make sure that they will help you answer your questions and that they have good information. Use the index or table of contents of a source. You can also skim and scan. You don't have to read every single thing that's in the source when you're trying to figure out if it's useful or not. Just skim through and see if the information that you're reading looks like it's on topic and possibly answering your questions. Read bold headings, look at pictures and captions, and that's another quick way to see if the source is valuable. Once you've identified sources that you think have useful information, you need to use the information. Read, watch, or listen to the information while taking notes. It's very important for you to take notes as you're looking through the information so that you can use these notes when you're compiling your rough draft or creating information for your project. Here are a few note-taking tips. Look for information that answers your initial questions. This will help you stay on topic and not just write down every fact that you see. Focus on your initial questions. Also, paraphrase or list information. You don't have to copy every single sentence that you see in your sources. In fact, this is plagiarism, so you want to make sure that you go ahead and paraphrase where you might list the facts but put it in your own words. You also want to focus on main points, key phrases, or important facts. You won't have time to write down every single thing, so focus on the main points or phrases that you think will be helpful. Make sure your notes also will be enough for your rough draft. You don't want to take too few notes so that when you're trying to write your rough draft, you don't remember what those facts were. So make sure that your notes will be useful for you. Also, make sure you write down bibliographic information, because if you don't do this, you'll have to go back and look through all your sources again. So it's a good tip to write down any bibliographic information as you're taking the notes, so you don't have to backtrack later on. Once you've compiled all your notes, now you need to synthesize the information, which is kind of like a summary, but you use that information for what you're trying to say about your research. Here's how you can organize your information. Use a graphic organizer like a mind map, or you could create a list of key points, or make an outline. I like to use outlines because it helps me list my information and organize it into paragraphs later on. Make sure that you also keep track of what sources your information comes from. You're probably going to have to cite them during your paper, so you want to make sure that you remember what information comes from what source. Once you've written your rough draft, and edited and created a final draft, you want to evaluate your work. Look back at your initial questions to see if you answered them. Also, look back at the project directions that you were given by your teacher, or a rubric, to make sure that you've completed all assigned tasks. This concludes the Big 6 research process. Make sure you use these 6 steps next time you have a research project.
Alright, so some of the great things about that video were not only does she go over every step of the Big 6 research process, she also gives some valuable tips and tricks along the way, including checking the credibility of sources. There were some great note-taking tips in that video, as well as some good reminders about citations. And just for reference, this video was by 21 A Rising Singer. 2013, November 19th, the big research process. It's a video on YouTube, and here is the link. So in addition to that, I wanted to provide you with some resources today, including a handout. What does this handout have to offer? Well, it gives us links to Big 6 videos. It details each step and stage of the video. It also details every substage. There also includes some guiding questions, and it also embeds an organizer to help you plan every stage and step in the Big 6. So let's take a look at that. Once I click on the link, it should open a PDF. Okay, let me zoom in and we can take a look at this PDF. So here's a Big 6 research handout that's available for you. Now you can print it out and have it on paper. If that's the case, then the links will not work. So it's helpful to also have access to it, which we provided, to use the links provided. So the first resource that I've provided you with for the Big 6 is just the same video that we just watched. So if you click that particular link, it's going to bring up, it might bring up an ad right now, but I wanted to show
Work
you that
today is broken. We're all working in too many
it
disconnected
features
apps.
the first video that we just watched for reference. The second resource that we provided you with is an additional video link that goes over the Big 6 process, including the sub-steps, and it does it in a very friendly, fun way, including a penguin. You can watch that if you need reminders or inspiration. And let's take a look at resource number 3. Resource number 3, the third link, is an additional YouTube video, and this one acts out big the Big 6 process in a humorous way using familiar cartoons. So again, those are 3 great resources, digital resources available for you. I've also provided you with 2 additional resources. The fourth resource comes in the form of column A. If you look at column A only, you'll notice that this column is separated into 6 sections, each signifying the steps. So what this does is it gives you a visual reminder of what is the step and what are the sub-steps. In addition, we've taken it a step further, and I've given you some guiding questions here that kind of make the thinking a little more familiar. So the next resource, for example, is task definition. 1.1, it's define the problem. What are you trying to find out, learn, and solve? 1.2, identify the information needed. What do you need to know? So this kind of acts as a roadmap that kind of helps you narrow down your research, helps you narrow down your sources, helps you narrow down the best way to locate information, the best way to use the information, how to synthesize and present the information, and then again the evaluating the product and the process. So column A is actually your next resource because it's a reminder of the Big 6, the sub-steps, and some additional questions that get you thinking. The last resource provided in this handout is column B. If you take a look at column B, it goes alongside with column A. However, it's a little bit different because it acts as a planner, an organizer. So as you are going through research, you can take notes, you can fill in, you can answer these guiding questions, which are going to help you follow the Big 6 process to complete your research or solve your problem. So let's give you an example. Let's go over here to step 4, use of information. So going along with the engage, where it says read, hear, view, and touch, the reminders right here. After you read, watch, or listen to your source, write down the most important facts that you learned. So that brings us on to 4.2, extract relevant information. So from those sources, not everything's important, but you want to write down the information that is the most important to whatever your topic, your research question, or your problem is. So you've got related things for that. So this particular resource is full of 5 different resources jam-packed in there to help you depending on where you need to get started, whether it's a refresher, whether it's just to figure out the steps in the process, or actual help with the planning. This resource is available to you. Okay, we've just reviewed the Big 6 lesson resources. So now let's get ready to kind of summarize it together. So again, Big six, step number one is task definition and is broken into two subsets. Define the problem. What are you trying to find out, learn, or solve? And 1.2, identify the information needed. What do you need to know? And you'll notice again throughout these steps, it's just a narrowing down of topic, a narrowing down of information, making everything more streamlined and tighter. Step number two, information seeking strategies. 2.1, determine all possible sources. You got to think to yourself, where can I find information about the problem, the topic, or the questions we established in step one? And then you go on to 2.2, select the best sources. So, which sources are the most credible? Again, we kind of heard that in the video. You might find a lot of sources, but who's going to have the most authority on the topic? Big six, step number three, location and access. 3.1, locate sources. So you need to think about these things. Where do you have to go to locate these sources? Do you have to go to the library? Do you have to go straight to the internet? Do you have to go to the campus library? Do you have to go to an academic library such as a college or a more specialized library? So those are things to think about, including, do you require special access? You might not have access to every library. So what is going to be the most credible resource to you that you have access to? 3.2, find information within the sources. So once you've read that, establish keywords and phrases to search through the information for. Where is the most relevant information located within each source? So next, big six, step number four, use of information. Next is engage. You've got to read, you've got to watch, you've got to listen to your sources, really keeping a target on the research question that you've posed. 4.2 is extract relevant information. What information addresses the problem or the questions established in step one? So again, you might have an entire chapter that's sort of on topic, but maybe only one paragraph, even one sentence is explicitly what you need to solve your problem or to answer your question established in step one. So being very, very meticulous about it. Step five is synthesis. I like to think of synthesis as taking information, putting things together, and making a new understanding. So in 5.1, it's organized from multiple sources. So you have to start thinking, how are you going to organize information? Are you going to use the graphic organizer I've provided? Do you want to make your own, including lists or outlines? So really deciding, how are you going to streamline this information that you've collected. 5.2, present the information. You have to think about and plan for what is the best format to present your information. Is it predetermined? Did your research require you to do a slideshow, to do a video? Or do you have choice? Would your information be best presented through a poster, a slideshow, a report, or a video? And last, big six, step six, evaluation. 6.1, judge the product. Does the product accomplish the project goals? It's good to be reflective. And again, if you deem that the project does not achieve goals, whether in your own standards or according to the rubric, then it's important at this step to go back and evaluate where you think the most impact and change can be made. 6.2, it's also important to judge the process. Think about the big six. What parts went smoothly for you this time around? What improvements could be made for next time? Just things to watch out for. So, in conclusion, that's the Big Six. To wrap up, the Big Six offers a clear step by step guide to help you work through any research project or problem. By using it, students can feel more confident and even enjoy the process along the way. Don't forget to use the resources. I am available for help and I look forward to it. And down below are my references that I used. Thank you.